Hey guys, it's Sarah, and today I'm going to be doing my August wrap up. I know it's kind of like a week late. I usually do them on time, but I just didn't want to film it last week, and so I didn't, and so here we are. So I'm gonna do it this week, okay? Also, before I keep going, I'm not gonna be able to be reading that much as the school year goes on because I'm taking 5 classes and I work like 20 hours at my job, and I get home every night at like 8 p.m. and I have homework and school reading to do. It's just unfortunate. I'm not gonna be able to read as much as I want to, but you know, I'm not gonna make myself feel bad about it either because that's definitely a pressure on BookTube because you feel like you've got to read like 20 books every month. But you know what? I can't do it. I just can't. So getting into the books I read, I'll start with the ones I read for Booktubeathon. And the first book I finished was Angel Fall. So basically, if you for some reason don't know what it's about this girl named Penryn, and it's a post-apocalyptic, that word is hard, it's a post-apocalyptic setting where there's these angels that have kind of like taken over the world. Penryn is trying really hard to take care of both her sister and her mom. Her sister's in a wheelchair. Her mom is like clinically insane, like she has like schizophrenia or something. And then there's another angel character named Raffi because Penryn's sister gets kidnapped and they have to work together because he's kind of like a fallen angel. I did do a book review of this, the Fireball Challenge video that I did for Booktubeathon. I'll link that down below. I just basically stuffed atomic fireballs in my mouth while I talked about this book. But like I said in that review, this has to be one of like my all-time favorite books. Like 5 stars all the way. Penryn is such a great female character. I want to be Penryn's friend. I want to be Penryn. She's so cool. And she's one of those like strong female characters where she's not just stubborn and sarcastic, which she is those things, but like there's a reason for the way she is the way she is. She knows like martial arts and stuff, and she's not just like a bark with no bite, you know? She's all like, I can defend myself, and there's so many scenes where she like literally fights people, and I was like, I wish I knew how to flip people over too. Also, the love story is not insta-love, thank the heavens, literally, because it's about angels. And it's like natural progression of their feelings, and I just really like this book series. The second book I read during Booktubeathon was The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer. I don't even know how to explain this book. It's paranormal and Mara's crazy. That's literally all I could really say about this book. I think it's better to go in not really knowing much about it because there's a lot of mystery involved, and Mara doesn't even have all her memories together and she doesn't even know what's going on until the end of the book. My only complaint is that it reads like a contemporary for the first like 3/4 of the book. The paranormal stuff is not even introduced until like the last 25%, and it's just super random. Like it's almost like I wish that the author had committed to one or the other. Like either she's crazy and it's because of some sort of like mental health thing, or it's paranormal, and she kind of put them together, so there is still a mental health element, but I didn't love that. I feel like someone who would be picking up the book not even knowing what it was about, like even a little bit, wouldn't even realize it was paranormal, and so I feel like it could be a letdown for some people, but I really liked it. I liked the characters. I really like Noah Shaw. He's a good character. The one thing I really want to see is I want to see more of her best friend. I forget his name, but the guy who befriends her at school. It's been so long since I read it, but he was really great, and he had such a small role in the first book, so I'm hoping that he comes up more in the next books because he's funny and I want to see more of him. The third book I read, which was not during Booktubeathon, was Unravel Me, which is the second book of the Shatter Me series. I actually liked it more than the first book, which is great because a lot of second books in a trilogy are kind of like a slump book, a sophomore slump, if you will. Definitely picked up in pace. The characters made more sense. You learn a lot more about Warner. Gotta say, I'm leaning more towards Team Warner. Not that I was ever Team Adam because he's annoying, but yeah, I just feel like you see more of Juliet. She gets a lot of character development, which is great. And I'm really looking forward to reading the third book. I think I gave this one 4 stars. I've yet to give any of the Shatter Me books 5 stars because there's always a little bit of something I could want. I don't just give out 5 stars unless I'm like really feeling it, or if it's Rainbow Rowell. And the fourth book I read was An Ember in the Ashes. I really liked this book. I listened to it on audio. I think listening to fantasy books on audio really helps me at least get into them because there's so much world building, and sometimes I'm just like, I'll give a little bit of a synopsis for this, and it's very hard to explain because it is a fantasy book, but An Ember in the Ashes is about a society that's kind of like the Roman Empire, but it has some fantasy elements. And there's two groups. There's the Marshals, who are kind of like this totalitarian dictatorship sort of government, and there's an emperor and stuff. And then there are the Scholars, who kind of are like their slaves, and they live under the Marshal rule. And so our two main characters, Leah is a scholar, and then Elias is a marshal who is a mask. And the story is told from the two different perspectives, and I think the narrators did a really great job. They chose really great actors for this. I actually liked Elias more than I liked Leah. I feel like he had more character depth. He is battling a lot of internal struggles because even though he is a marshal and he is a mask, he doesn't really agree with everything that his society is doing, and that's difficult for him because he doesn't know how to cope and like put his life together. And Leah, she's interesting-ish. She becomes more interesting towards the end because she gets a lot of character development throughout this book, because basically she's a scholar whose brother has been taken by the Marshals, and so now she's agreed to be a spy for the rebels. She's really weak in the beginning, and she just is always fearful, and so that's a lot of what her narrative is, which is fine and good, and you can relate to that. But I think Elias was more interesting because he was a little bit more confident, even though he was like figuring out what he believed about things. And so I just kind of liked his parts better. There are some love triangles in this, but it's really interesting because it's like Leah has two prospects, but then Elias also has two prospects. So it's almost like a love, like Venn diagram triangle thing. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. And I really liked how it developed, which is really weird because usually love triangle nonsense is annoying, but it like makes sense because for Elias it's like a girl that he's known his whole life versus, you know, a girl he just met, and he's trying to figure out what he feels, and he doesn't even necessarily want to feel anything. He's not really looking for romance. And then Leah is the same way, where she's just like not really in the mood to like anybody because all she cares about is finding her brother. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Again, giving 5 stars is just difficult, especially with fantasy books because they have a lot of slow bits. And the last book I read, which I finished just as August 31st was coming, was Nearly Gone. So this is like a contemporary thriller book, and it's about a girl named Nearly, which pet peeve right now. Her name is Nearly, but she doesn't like her name, so she goes by the nickname Lee the whole book. No. What's the point in naming a character Nearly, but then you don't even call her Nearly? Like, what is the point? An interesting thing about Nearly is that when she touches people, she can taste their emotions. And she likes to read the classifieds in the newspaper. So one day she discovers one that's kind of like out of place and a little weird, and she realizes that it's the clue to a murder, and then these people in her town keep getting murdered and the clues are being left in the newspaper, and she's the only one who seems to be able to piece the information together, and it seems like the person is trying to frame her specifically as the murderer, and so she's trying to figure that out. And obviously there's a little bit of a love story in there as well. It's not written the best out of like everything I've ever read, and her power of tasting emotions doesn't work sometimes. Like, sometimes the way it's written is just like not done that well, and I think if you're gonna have an interesting element like that in your story, you need to make sure the plot is like sealed tight and it like serves a purpose. But I just felt like it was something random. Like, it was almost like she wrote a contemporary thriller and then she was like, oh, but like I need a paranormal element. Like, it just didn't seem like it belonged sometimes. Even though I gave it 3 stars, I would definitely recommend it if you like thrillers. it was good for what it was, you know? Like, I didn't expect much. I was like, thanks, that was a good time. But that was pretty much it. That was my reading this month, or last month, because it's actually September now. If you've read any of these books, be sure to let me know down below. And you're all beautiful. Have a great day.